Lachie, thanks for joining me on another ep of JLP Creator Sessions. We're talking today because of your love of parkour, which is quite a unique sport and something that's quite interesting. What made you get into it to start with? Because it is quite unique and it's not something that people find very often. What made you get into it?
Yeah, so as I was going through high school, I had a group of friends who became interested in it probably during the later years of high school, and they had started to practice more at school rather than practicing outside of school, to the point where I had started to see some of the stuff they were training. Initially I thought it was just a complete joke and I thought it was funny, and like everyone else I just completely took the piss out of it. And then they had invited me to come along to a session, which I was a bit reluctant to at first, just the whole stigma around what it actually is and movement as a discipline. But I eventually decided that I wanted to go and give it a shot after seeing a heap of the videos on YouTube that were of people doing this really cool stuff, and I was like, yep, cool. I was like, I can do that. So I got a group of friends together and we eventually got to a jam session down at the waterfront, actually down here, and we ended up actually having quite a lot of fun, and we ended up just going on from that. Yeah.
And compared to other sports, how much training and preparation do you have to do to make sure you get all these jumps and moves correct?
So it's kind of personal development, and it's at your own speed, really. So the skills in which you want to learn can be paced out by how fast you want to learn them. Say if you want to go and learn how to do a big jump, you first have to do the prerequisites for the small jump and then work your way up. It really is at your own speed at which you decide to learn things, and it is all about personal progression and moving slowly to make sure you really understand the fundamentals of movement before you go throwing bigger things.
Yeah, and it's quite a free sport. How does it allow you to express yourself creatively? Does each athlete have their own style of how they move or perform parkour?
Yeah, so different athletes have completely different styles, from people who just like to throw big power stuff and just do running precisions onto rails from 4 meters away, or for those people that like to do a lot of flips in their lines and that. It really is about self-interpretation and giving it your personal embodiment of what you believe it is. Yeah.
The first time I probably heard about it or saw it was in the James Bond film Casino Royale.
Yeah.
That's probably a lot of people's first taste of parkour. Did that movie breathe a lot of life into the sport itself, or?
Yeah, surprisingly that film was actually pretty accurate as to a lot of the moves and the techniques and that are portrayed in the film. There is a bit of that stretching of the reality, dropping from a crane. However, a lot of the stuff fitting into the tight gaps, taking drops, proper movement around your environment, it was a lot of realistic movement based in that, and that did benefit the culture and the movement itself, and gave a lot of life to the communities and that started to train, and people got interested from that and allowed a lot more development within the communities themselves.
Because the guy that was in that scene along with Daniel Craig was the French free runner, I believe, where it's very popular in France. I believe there's another guy, David
Bell, yeah.
Yeah, he's like he's your Lance Franklin of parkour, is he? Yeah.
So David Bell was the quote-unquote founder of parkour.
Yeah.
His dad, Raymond Bell, introduced the sport to him and his friends at a young age, and started to teach them the basics of what he knew through being in the French military. The foundation of it is actually dated back to an incident in the Caribbean islands in about, I don't even remember, 1980, I think, and where a fellow named George Herbert had seen the fact that these indigenous people were going through a volcanic eruption and that they were trying to escape, and they were following all the common areas, and a lot of people died in that situation, and he saw that people were using these common routes and not really using most of their environment and doing and navigating the space in which they had. And George Herbert actually developed a thing called the natural method, which was his interpretation of how you should move around your environment, and that was actually what the basis of parkour was started on. Then that moved back into the French military. As he was traveling around, he started introducing it to the French, and they adopted that fully into their military teachings. And then Raymond Bell had introduced that to his son as he was in the French military himself.
Yeah, interesting. Is there a goal move for you? Is there like one move that you'd like to perform, and is there a move that you probably wouldn't perform because of the risk? Because obviously you see people like jumping from rooftop to rooftop, across streets, off buildings. There's quite a bit of risk involved. So is there one that you'd like to do but maybe wouldn't try because it's too risky?
Yeah, definitely there's like a level of complexity and skill to a lot of moves that people don't understand. And there is like goal moves. For instance, one of my goal moves was just to learn how to backflip, which was quite a small feat as compared to some of the things that other people can do. But for me, that was like the one thing I was just like, cool, I can backflip. But yeah, there definitely are those boundaries in which movement can go too far. For instance, I probably would never try doing a standing double backflip because it's just a lot more power than I have and a lot more power than a lot of people have, and it just becomes dangerous at a point. What you were talking about in the fact that, you know, jumping off rooftops and that, yes, that is an aspect of it, but it's also not an aspect of parkour as a whole.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of the stigma behind parkour and being a dangerous sport has come from groups of people who either do urbexing, which is a derivative of what parkour was, where they go and explore abandoned buildings, they go and explore buildings under construction, and unfortunately that does give parkour a bad name.
It's more of the illegal nature.
Yeah. And yeah, so I think there's definitely points where movement and training and pushing yourself can go too far, especially in those times where, you know, you're committing a crime or you're doing something that you definitely shouldn't be. And don't get me wrong, there are those people that choose to do those things, and I'm not going to say that it's wrong because that's their personal interpretation of movement.
Yep.
But at the same time, I wouldn't commit to doing those things.
You yourself have recently got really into photography and videography. Is making parkour content something of a passion of yours and something you want to do to help promote the sport in Australia?
Yeah, so I got into photography and videography after watching a fellow named Casey Neistat, watching the daily vlogs and watching him push out content in such a rapid manner that like it just seemed unnatural, and he was just pushing out content each day. From that, I got into people like Peter McKinnon. Just started seeing a lot of the really high quality photography stuff he was putting out, and just the videos he was making. And from that, I saw certain other groups and communities around the world, such as groups like Team Farang, which is a multinational team of people who train, make videos, have their own clothing brand. And that was kind of like the dream goal for a lot of things. And yeah, definitely making videos is something that's interested me and something I want to push for now that I'm getting more into the photography and videography side of the creative aspect of my movement, because I did used to perceive putting content up as quite naive, as a lot of people do in the parkour community, and as well, you kind of don't want to be that guy who's at an event, you say, can you film this? And you just kind of seem a bit dickish.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'll definitely put up your Instagram and Facebook handles and whatnot. You've done a lot of promising work so far, and I'm keen to see your photography work and your parkour skills grow as your social presence grows as well. So thanks for joining me for this interview. Have a good one, I guess. Thanks, man. Big thanks to Lachlan for talking to me this creator session over wind noise, seagulls and skater boys. Make sure you follow Lach as he rapidly progresses his photography, videography and parkour skills. Thank you for watching this creator session. I'll catch you in the next one soon.